Good morning, everyone, and welcome virtually to Judson Memorial Church. And have no fear. For those of you who don't recognize me, it is just your friendly neighborhood, Micah. I'm just freshly shorn and freshly revived to lead us through this Sunday morning worship service. You might have grown quite used to the wilds that were growing on the top of my head, but my partner, Matt, in celebration of our anniversary, decided to take some clippers and some shears and go through the tangles that were growing up there and create the little tiny masterpiece that you see before you. So all credit goes to Matthew Cleaver, none of it goes to me. He did a great job, but if you don't recognize me, have no fear. It's just me, the same guy who's been leading you through, but just no longer looking like a caveman or like any of the variety of other things I've called myself, queerwolf among them. We usually start our service here with an acknowledgement of the first peoples on this land, so I invite you into a moment of quiet where we all can breathe into this service together. Take a deep breath in with me and let it out. And hear these words, this land acknowledgement. Our physical space stands on the unceded land of the Lenape people. Judson Memorial Church acknowledges the Lenape community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations, and we make this acknowledgement as part of our work to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism and white supremacy. Thank you. So it is my honor to serve as your MC, your worship leader through the next hour. I wish that we could all be together, especially because it is the first Sunday of May, and on the first Sunday here at Judson, we typically have our Agape meal, where this entire room is filled with tables and boisterous people who are sitting across from one another, sharing food and drink during the entire service, sharing conversation, usually talking so much that it takes us a little while to settle them down. But try to imagine that in your space right now. Whether your space right now is actually boisterous or whether you're home alone, I invite you to just imagine that you're back in this space, and that all of these tables are stretching into the room in which you're sitting right now. And we will have a formal communion moment later in the service, so if you would like to participate, I invite you now to gather a little something to eat, a little something to drink. It doesn't have to be something fancy. Anything can be made holy, as Iris Murdoch said. And if you so desire also, I know I painted my nails a new color. This is called Purple Heart before I started filming this service. So if you'd like to also start painting your nails while you're sitting at the Agape table, that is very, very welcome. As you gather your elements, let's move into our prelude by two Judson Quarantine Art Book offerers, Alison Schuettinger and Peyton Pleninger. Peyton will be playing the saxophone and Alison will be dancing to a beautiful improvised rendition of Blessed Assurance. Enjoy. Thank you so much, Alison, and thank you so much, Peyton. That makes me want to play the saxophone, that makes me want to dance, and maybe I'll take both up while we continue to shelter in place. Thank you for the inspiration. It makes me hear Blessed Assurance anew, as if I've never heard it before. And now, as we call ourselves deeper into an attitude of worship, hear these words of our call to worship. Just as the body is made up of many parts, So we gather from different backgrounds, different people with different talents and gifts to worship God and give thanks for each other. What better words could you have to call us into a more agape-filled space? So now that we have been properly called into this space together, now that the agape table has spread far and wide, please join in singing Sweet Hour of Prayer. I would love it if you would sing at the top of your lungs, and if your neighbors complain, just invite them to sing along. Go for it. Oh, that song takes me right back to my grandparents' Primitive Baptist Church in Marshville, North Carolina. I remember they didn't even have musical instruments. They weren't allowed in the space. So they sang everything a cappella. And it's so beautiful to think back on that memory and to imagine you singing in your space as well. So now hear these words from our ancient testimony. An excerpt from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, he leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul, he leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. And now hear these words of our modern testimony, written by Paul Tillich, a reverend, chaplain, theologian, philosopher, professor, author, preacher's kid, PK, World War II veteran, and husband. This is an excerpt on grace and acceptance from Tillich's work, The Shaking of the Foundations. In grace, something is overcome. Grace occurs in spite of something. Grace occurs in spite of separation and estrangement. Grace is the reunion of life with life, the reconciliation of the self with itself. Grace is the acceptance of that which is rejected. Grace transforms fate into meaningful destiny. It changes guilt into confidence and courage. There is something triumphant in the word grace. In spite of the abounding of sin, grace abounds much more. But then there are those moments when grace comes over us and creates in us the capacity to accept ourselves, to truly love ourselves, to accept God's acceptance of us. Sometimes at that moment, a wave of light breaks into our darkness, and it is as though a voice were saying, "You are accepted. You are accepted. Accepted by that which is greater than you, and the name of which you do not know." Do not ask for the name now. Perhaps you will find it later. Do not try to do anything now. Perhaps later you will do much more. Do not seek for anything. Do not perform anything. Do not intend anything. Simply accept the fact that you are accepted. If that happens to us, we experience grace. After such an experience, we may not be better than before, and we may not believe more than before, but everything is transformed. And nothing is demanded of this experience. No religious or moral or intellectual presupposition, nothing but acceptance. Thank you, Paul Tillich. And as we move into a moment where we will sit in music and in a homiletic offering from Reverend Dr. Valerie Holly, breathe into this moment of acceptance, this moment of grace, this moment of love, this moment of being invited to a table that sometimes you probably don't even think you deserve to sit at. But it wants you to sit at it, no matter what you feel. So please, keep that in mind as we listen to the beautiful sounds of STOUT and allow STOUT's music to lead us into a sermon by our very own assistant minister, Reverend Dr. Valerie Holly. Enjoy.
STOUT, thank you so much. What a wonderful song you gave us. I know there may be people like me also at home just clapping for you. Thank you so much for that rendition of Richard Smallwood's song. You know, Judson, I know STOUT because it's a very small world how I know STOUT. STOUT's mother and I work together. Actually, we both teach at Danbury Federal Prison. She and I teach theology together. And that's how I met her daughter that you all call STOUT. Thank you again for what a wonderful rendition. And it really is a small world. Well, good morning, Judson. Today I am with you again on Agape Sunday, May the 3rd. And as always, I'm always grateful to be with you. I am Valerie Holly, one of the ministers here at Judson Memorial Church. And today we're looking at Psalms 23. a psalm that a lot of people know. There may be people who don't know this psalm, yet there's a lot of people who do know this psalm. And Psalms 23 is attributed to David. And most people, or a lot of the theologians, say it was written sometime in 1000 BCE. So that's over 3,000 years ago. Well, we're not going to deal with Psalm 23 just yet. I'm going to come back to it. So now I want us to just think about, or remember, if you have the bulletin and you were able to see the bulletin, and if you weren't able to see the bulletin, my sermon title is God, Grace. No, I said it backwards. It's God, Acceptance. God, Acceptance, Grace, and Tillich. Really? And so we're going to be looking a little bit at the theologian Tillich and looking at whether or not Psalm 23 has some form of a connection to what a little bit of Tillich's writing is telling us. I want to basically see if the writing of Tillich and Psalm 23 has any bearing on us today. And so we're going to take a look at Tillich. Now, Paul Tillich is a German-American existentialist philosopher and also a Lutheran Protestant theologian. Whole bunch of words here. Existentialist philosopher. Basically saying that as a philosopher, he is somebody that studies truth, nature, and the meaning of life. And then the whole thing about existentialists believe in freedom and choice, and they also look at individual existence. And obviously a theologian is the study of God, God's relationship with the world, and also other religious beliefs. Now, as Tillich is considered one of the most influential 20th century theologians. He's done a lot of writing, he's highly respected, and he has a lot of books, some of which I just name a few that I have that I happen to like. One of them is Systematic Theology, and he has that in 3 volumes. Another one is Shaking of the Foundations, which actually, the piece that I'm going to read and that Ross, our liturgist, read in the bulletin for us earlier, and I'm just going to read a little piece of it. And then the last one is that I have is called A Courage to Be. One of my favorites. The title alone gets me, A Courage to Be. And perhaps one day I'll be able to, speak on that. A Courage to Be. Here at Judson. So, Tillich makes some form of a declaration to us in his writing, in this piece of narrative that I've chosen, that speaks to acceptance and grace. And although Ross read it earlier for us, to bring it back to our memory, I want to read it again. So bear with me as I read it. And it says, you are accepted. You are accepted by that which is greater than you, and the name of which you do not know. Do not ask for the name now. Perhaps you will find it later. Do not try to do anything now. Perhaps later you will do much more. Do not seek for anything. Do not perform anything. Do not intend anything. Simply accept the fact that you are accepted. Simply accept the fact that you are accepted. Interesting. Till it goes on to say, if that happens to us, we experience grace. After such an experience, we may not be better than before, and we may not believe more than before, but everything is transformed, and nothing is demanded of this experience. No religious or moral or intellectual presupposition. Nothing but acceptance. Wow. Now, from a spiritual place, I believe Tillich is telling us some things. Simply put, he's telling us we are accepted just as you are, just as I am. I am accepted. Accepted meaning regarded favorably and a fully member of the community. Accepted. By Tillich's words, I am regarded favorably and a fully accepted member of God's people. Let's just go there. We're going to name it. I'm going to name it. Now, fully accepted by God, a fully accepted member of God's family, which means in my humanness, I am okay. And for some of us, that humanness, that aspect of who we are, includes us coming into church, possibly in a wheelchair, us coming in with our walker, with our cane, with an aid, whatever that support system says. According to Tillich, simply accept that we are accepted. In all of my weaknesses, in my likes, in my loves, in all the mistake proneness that I am still a full member of God's family. In all of my imperfections, in all of the things I do well, and all of the things I don't do well. Doesn't matter, fully part of God's family. Now, what does that say to us? Well, it allows us to understand his second point, which says, and when that happens, when I understand that I am fully accepted, grace happens. Grace connects with us. Grace connects with me. Grace envelops me. Grace covers me. Once I am connected and own that I am in fact accepted. And I like what he says, that when grace happens, that's when the transformation happens. Well, what transformation, Reverend Holly or Valerie? What transformation? Well, here's the transformation. By my feeling accepted, by my trusting that I'm accepted, and owning the grace of that, knowing that I'm part of the family of God, just as I am, it allows me to understand that I am loved. Now, you may say, love. I know that there's some people that love me. I am loved. Now, we're not saying all people love us. However, I'm saying there are some people I know I can count on right now that I know love me just as I am. I know you can count on some people right now that you know love you just as you are. We're not saying all of them. We're just saying there's some folk that when you think about them, put a smile on your face. There's some folk for me that when I think about them, puts a smile on my face. And so the transformation is, I am accepted in God's family, and I am in fact loved. Which means, as Maya said on the cover of my bulletin, today is a day that I didn't see before. Today is a day I didn't know I was going to be a part of before. That alone puts a smile on my face. The transformation also says that when I walk into arenas or situations where I may be what they call the person that's a little different, in some circles they call them minority, in other circles they just call them odd, I guess. Well, in all my oddness, in all my differentness, in all of that minority stuff, I'm still wonderfully and beautifully adorned and made. You know, in my old church, when I was at Unity, we used to say this thing all the time. All the time. We used to say in our meditation, everything about you is good. From the crown of your head to your toes. If you have a pencil thin lips, it's all good. If your nose takes up all of your face, it's still good. You got green eyes, good. You got blue eyes, good. You got brown eyes. You got charcoal eyes. You got brown skin. You got skin that's lighter hue. It is all good. And we would say that every Sunday. Matter of fact, I own a t-shirt that was given to me that says, my nose, my eyes, my lips, good. Someone gave that to me. But back to what I'm saying. The transformation, when you own that you accepted, when you have grace, it makes it a little lighter. Perhaps in my mind, I don't allow outside sources and situations to weigh me down. What you may think about me don't weigh nothing. Because see, I know what God thinks about me. I'm accepted and grace is with me. How you may think I should behave, how you feel about my locks, how you feel about whatever, ain't got nothing to do with me. Because God said, I'm all right. And you're all right. Just as we are. However we show up, we all right. Because lungs are working, heart is pumping, and we still in God's family. The rest of that is gravy. We're still in God's family. And so by buying the grace and getting the acceptance which allows to the grace, has me looking at Psalms 23 a little differently. And I'm using the NRSV version. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I am in God's family. You are in God's family. We shall not want. Does that not mean we're going to have everything we need? Does that not mean we're going to have, what do I call it? You're going to have filet mignon tonight? No, it means that if you ate anything, you give God the blessing. We say thank you. If you had somewhere to sleep, we want to say thank you. If you were able just to know that all that, I think it was Thursday night, the rain and carrying on, it went crazy. Yet I was just grateful. That's what the transformation says. In every way, I want to give thanks. And so when I look at that, the beginning of Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That works for me. It lets me know that I'm in God's house. I'm protected. I'm one of God's children, which means if he's blessing you, which he is, he's blessing me too. I don't have to want for what you have because God blesses us. And then I go to the verse 4. And remember, it's the NRSV version I'm using. Yea, though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil because you are with me. I'm assuming the you is God. And it is her rod, his rod, their rod comforts me. Now there's two things in there, several things in there. The NRSV version uses the darkest valley. I know in King James, which is a little more poetic version, yea, though I walk through the valley of death. Yea, though I walk through the valley of death. That's interesting, and I like that. Yet I wanted the darkest valley. NRSV version gave me darkest valley. And it made me think about something. If David did pen this, if David did write this, he must have seen some dark days. You know, some theologians, they want to debate whether or not he was a kid or was he older. And some folks say, what kind of dark days did a 10-year-old see? Listen, there's a lot of 10-year-olds that see some dark days. Trust me on that. Ask me how I know. But anyway, moving on. David said in that verse, yea, though I go through the darkest valley, I know you will be with me. Which says, David saw some dark days. And I don't know what those days were. Then he penned it by saying, you are with me. You comfort me. So even when he said, I'm going through dark days, he also understood God is with him and God will give him comfort through those dark days. Put a pin on that. Comfort through the dark days. So, 3,000 years ago when he wrote this, he was going through some dark days. Guess what, Judson? In my opinion, we're going through some dark days right about now. I'd say maybe the last 2 months or so, we've been through some dark days. Yet, when I make and it's been hard. It's been very hard for us. A lot of us are frustrated. A lot of us are depressed. Some of us are depressed. Some of us have angst. Some of us are very angry. Some of us are tired of sheltering in place and COVID-19s and quarantines and masks and gloves. We had enough. Some of us are even suffering. Every day we're learning about all these people that left this earth, this plane. Some of us are going through. And in my opinion, we are going through some darkest valley. And yet, according to Psalms 23, and according to Mr. Tillich here, my acceptance, your acceptance, and the grace of God is with us. That says, as we go through these dark valleys right now, God is with us. And the other piece to that, he is comforting us. What does that look like? Well, it's helping us Zoom meetings, and it's helping us exercise in the house, meditate. Micah's wonderful group that he does, meetings and that we get into, and we have the therapy now. We have all the different group meetings and the coffee hours. It's helping us deal with it. Joy on Wednesdays, it is helping us have comfort through these dark days. And so, it's helping us have hope. That's the comfort. It's helping us have love. So, God, acceptance, grace, and Tillich. Really? Yes, really. I think he was on to something. Amen.
Thank you so much for those characteristically wise words, Valerie, the perfect words to take us into our formal Agape communion moment, where this table is, whether it's in this room or whether it's in the room that you are sitting in, it is full of grace and full of acceptance wherever you are, wherever it is. So even though we can't be sitting at a formal table in this room together right now, let's imagine that this agape table, this table of grace and acceptance and love, is stretching out from Washington Square to wherever you are, connecting to whatever surface you've gathered your elements on. And as always, there's no pressure to participate in this communion moment if you don't want to, but also, as always, everyone is welcome at this table. So if you've gathered a little bit to drink and a little bit to eat, gather those now. And let's go into a formal moment of communion and remembrance. On the night that he was betrayed, this night that we remember when Jesus was having a Seder meal with all of his friends, Jesus took the bread and he broke it. And he said, "Take, eat. This is my body broken for you. Whenever you eat it, remember my broken body and remember all broken bodies throughout history. Remember their courage. Remember their deaths. Remember the empire that broke those bodies. And do this in remembrance of me." Let's eat together. And in the same way, Jesus lifted up the cup. And at Judson right now, that cup is a little My Little Pony Rainbow Dash cup. So it's a super queer communion. But Jesus lifted up whatever cup he had and looked around at all of his friends, and he said, I know this looks like some normal cup, but inside this cup is abundant grace, abundant acceptance, abundant love. Inside this cup is a reminder of the promise we are making together, that you will always love one another as I have loved you. Let's drink together. And here at Judson, we like to also imagine that Jesus and all of those friends were also kind of show queens and that they like to sing together at that table. So let's join in singing God's Eye is on the Sparrow, verses 1 and 2. I want to hear you all the way down here in Greenwich Village. Go for it. With these songs, it is really starting to feel like a Baptist church in here again. Thank you for that beautiful singing. I can feel it in my heart. And speaking of a heart, we are now in what we call the heart of the community. This typically, if we were together in this room, would be the moment where we were not only sharing our celebrations and our concerns, our joys and our sadnesses, our matters of the heart and prayer requests across the table with one another, but we would also be enjoying an open podium moment where anyone could come up and voice their celebrations, voice their concerns. While we can't do that while we are sheltering in place, we do have this moment so that we can hold in our hearts all the things that we are thinking about, meditating on, praying for, holding tightly to us even though we are physically distant from one another. In the bulletin, to which you have access on the page just below this video, you can also find a running list of celebrations and concerns that have been shared with us from members of the community. But just because we know that not every celebration and concern makes it into this document. Not every celebration and concern gets mentioned. Let's take a moment to just settle into this silence and hold in our hearts all of those amazing faces and spirits whom we usually see in this space, with whom we would typically be sharing a physical table, and with whom right now we share a metaphorical table. But through love, we make that table an actual table. And take this moment, if you'd like to speak out loud what you're praying for, what you're celebrating, the concerns and matters of your heart. And hold those as I invite you to pray with me. Creative hands of the universe, as we seek something like God, grace, and acceptance in all that surrounds us, the material and the mystical, the super and the simple, we believe in the power of community, in the power of an open table, and we believe in the love that radiates from within the soul of this place. We lift up those especially in need of good energy and prayers, and we shoulder these needs together, knowing that burdens can be a bit lighter when they are carried together, that joys can be more grounded when we celebrate them together. We celebrate and hold in our hearts those on the front lines of this crisis, the healthcare professionals, the essential workers, the store clerks, the postal carriers, the transit workers, all who serve and clean and make certain that we are fed and sheltered and healthy. All who are beckoned outside to work while we are all told that we are safest inside. We hold those who have lost work, who have lost income, who have lost a feeling of purpose, who have lost loved ones, who fear for their health and for their future, or for the health and future of those they love. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage, and grant us more and more surprises, even within the familiar walls that currently keep us apart. Amen. And now is the moment in our service where we would typically be passing around baskets to welcome your monetary offerings. But while we can't do that, we will have a moment in just a few when we will tell you just how you can give online to Judson. But before that, I have a special message from one of the chairs of our capital campaign, Michael Crumpler. So Michael, why don't you give us your message and tell us about an urgent appeal that we've all got here at Judson right now.
Good morning, Judson. I am Michael Crumpler, chair of your Capital Campaign Committee. I am so excited to join you this morning. I miss seeing all of your faces as I have been away serving as sabbatical minister at the First Unitarian Universalist Society in Brooklyn Heights. However, I have been meeting regularly with the Capital Campaign Committee, coordinating the monthly People's Judson service, and of course, following all of your joys and concerns via the listserv. You all are in my thoughts and prayers as we endure the hardships brought on by COVID-19. Thank you for showing up from a social distance. By doing so, you are not only saving lives, but you are also giving life to one another as we struggle to make meaning out of this epic tragedy. As you're well aware, the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic is far-reaching, impacting every level of society, Judson included. Some of you may not know, that 30% of our operating budget comes from our space use rentals, which have been canceled for the foreseeable future. Thanks to the hard work of our senior administrator, Roy Atwood, I'm excited to inform you that our Paycheck Protection Program loan application, also known as PPP, has been approved, and Judson will receive $147,000 that will allow us to pay our staff salaries. Despite the much-needed stimulus, we currently anticipate a budget shortfall of $100,000 due to the loss of rental income. In response to the shortfall, we are launching the COVID-19 Urgent Need Appeal campaign. To give to the COVID-19 Urgent Need Appeal campaign, please visit judson.org/give. Your generous gifts will allow us to continue the life-giving ministries of Judson Memorial Church that we have all come to know and love and depend on. Thank you all so much, and I look forward to returning to worship with you again soon. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Michael. And now, as we move into our offertory moment, I'd like to remind you that there are 3 ways that you can give online to Judson, and you'll see them pop up on the screen here. Right now, you can give via Venmo using our handle @JudsonMemorial/church. Or you can text Judson, all in capital letters, to the number 44321, or you can go to judson.org/give. Please give as you are able, and we will gladly accept your monetary offerings while we enjoy this classic creative offering, something pulled from the archives that brought us to our feet the first time it occurred inside our space. Give it up for the Judson Choir and their Bafo Sacco rendition of Witness.
Who be a witness for my Lord? Who be a witness for my Lord? Who be a witness for my Lord? Who be a witness for my Lord?
I'll be a witness for my Lord. 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 There was a man of the Pharisees. His name was Nicodemus, and he didn't believe. The same came to Christ by night, wanted to be taught out of human sight. Nicodemus was a man who desired to know how a man can be when he is old. Christ told Nicodemus as a friend,
Man, you must be born again. Marvel not, lad, if you want to be wise. Repent, believe, and be baptized.
then you'll be a witness for my Lord. You'll be a witness for my Lord. You'll be a witness for my Lord. Paul is a witness for my Lord. You read about Samson. From his birth, he was the strongest man that ever lived on earth. Way back yonder in ancient times, he killed 10,000 of the Philistines. Then old Samson went a-wandering about. Samson's strength was never found out. Till his wife sat upon his knee. She said, tell me where your strength lies, if you please. When old Samson's wife, she talked so fair, Samson said,
Cut off the my hair.
cut it off.
My hair just as clean as your hand, and my strength will come like a natural man.
Samson was a witness for my Lord. Samson was a witness for my Lord. Samson was a witness for my Lord. Saul is a witness for my Lord. There's another witness. There's another witness. Another witness. Another witness. Another witness. Another witness. Another witness for my Lord. My soul is a witness for my Lord.
Whew, I feel so resurrected it might as well be Easter again. And though we've come to the end of this time together, as we always say here at Judson, this service is ending and our service in the world continues. Always look for the helpers, as St. Fred Rogers said. And in looking for the helpers, you become a helper yourself. I leave you here. Do not despair. Remain in a circle. Sing your heart out. And I'll see you back here again next Sunday at 11 a.m. Amen.